Hi and welcome to another video update from the Fire Brigades Union, where we're joined by General Secretary Matt Wrack to discuss the terrible disaster at Grenfell Tower in London. Matt, you've been to the scene of this tragic fire. You've talked to the firefighters involved, local residents and indeed politicians. What's your initial response as the leader of the FBU?
Well, Tam, I think it is absolutely horrifying to visit that scene. Worse in reality than it appears on the TV and in the photos in the newspapers. So it is a scene of utter devastation and gives an insight into the appalling conditions our firefighters faced on that terrible evening. And I think the first thing is to pay tribute to them. What an absolutely outstanding job they did in appalling conditions that you couldn't have envisaged at all. I think it would have been a complete shock to people turning up to see the scale of that incident. Terribly, lots of people have died, but equally firefighters have saved lots of lives as well, and I think they can be enormously proud of what they did. And I know that messages are coming from around the world, from all over the community, from our members up and down the country as well, saying what a fantastic job those members did that evening.
Absolutely. Now, you've acted very quickly following this. You've written to all Fire Brigades Union members, but you've also written to the Prime Minister. What message did you have for Theresa May?
Well, Theresa May has announced a public inquiry. We've started to discuss that, what that means, different forms of inquiry, and we've set out in our letter what we think should be there. So first of all, we've said that central to this needs to be the needs and demands of the survivors and the victims of this tragedy, including full funding for them to be represented at any public inquiry. Secondly, that we also need to play a role in it. The firefighters who fought that fire through their organisation, the FBU, should be central to that. And then we discussed the question, the terms of reference. We don't want this to be a narrowly focused just on the specific causes of this fire and what happened subsequently, but it's got to be in a much broader context of how could it happen, what's the regulation background to it, what's the fire safety background to it, what's the role of the fire and rescue service, how could, if cladding's involved as is suspected now, how has that happened, what's the testing, what's the research that's going on. There's a whole host of questions that need to be looked at.
Well, Matt, you say that. I mean, every firefighter that watched that in the television unfold in front of them will be asking the same question. How on earth can this happen? And what's the Fire Brigades Union going to do, more importantly, to make sure that it never happens in the future?
Well, I think that this is a really big turning point, I hope. I think the best tribute actually we can play to the people who've lost their lives is to make sure that it doesn't happen again and to change direction on many issues in society, about the fire and rescue service, about housing, about local authorities, about public safety, all of those issues. We've had years of deregulation, whether it's in local authority building control, whether it's in the cutting back of our fire safety departments, whether it's in just deregulating and allowing developers to almost do whatever they want, where public agencies, whether it's local authorities or the fire service, very little resources to even go out and find out what's going on. Research in the fire and rescue service has been slashed, in fact virtually ended. There's no central government research on fire and rescue matters anymore. The fire service, then on top of that, we've had years and years of cuts, so our specialist fire safety teams have been devastated. It's the easy option, you know, people don't want to see a fire station closed, so you get rid of specialist fire safety inspectors. And then there is the question of the operational response. In that part of London, we've seen a 50% reduction in fire cover. Now, we don't know directly how that's impacted on in this particular case, but what you can't do is claim it has no impact on the fire and rescue service and our ability to respond to emergencies like this. So there are a whole range of issues. I think we need to say to politicians, but also to chief officers, this is an opportunity to really examine what it is we do in our service and say, is it what we need to be doing, or do we need a change of direction? I think we need a change of direction.
Matt, thanks very much. For more updates on this and indeed all areas of our work, please go to our website. That's www.fbu.org.uk. Or for more immediate updates, you can follow us on Twitter, and that's simply @FBU National. Thanks very much, Matt.
Thanks, Tam.